Welcome to my next project. So, what I'm making is a series of pipelines loosely based on the official Promethium relay pipe system. So I'm trying to make something relatively similar, but out of rubbish or trash. So, I'm going to show you how I did this. Let's go on to the video. Right, so these are my base materials for the main body of the pipe. I have the inner tube from a roll of tinfoil and some chipboard. So I start off by cutting the tube into 9cm long sections, and then I grab some chipboard, and some of this I do off camera, but I make 4 5x5cm squares. So these are going to be the end sections of the pipeline. And then I cut off a 45-degree corner on the top. Okay, I have the 4 end pieces now made, and they should line up perfectly. So what I do next is just using some offcuts of chipboard. I glue these to one of the end pieces, and then glue the other side on, and then I repeat this with the other 2 end piece sections. I've marked each of the end pieces with some measurements, so it's 1 centimetre in and 1 centimetre down from the top, and I draw 3 lines, and this is going to be the placement for the actual pipe, the top and sides. So I do this both sides of both end sections. Then I take some 9mm wide cardstock, a big strip, and cut sections to fit along the sides of the end pieces, and I glue these on and do this with both ends. Onto the end sections, I have these milk bottle tops, lids, which I trim the thread from the inside off with a knife, and then I take some, again, 9mm cardstock and wrap it around to cover the outside texture. So with the bottle tops, I've made a template in a piece of card, a circle, which fits inside. I trace this out onto some corrugated paper, cut out the circles, and then glue them into the bottle tops. Gluing time! Making sure that the lines in the corrugated paper are vertical, I glue the 2 bottle tops to the end pieces. And then I want to start detailing the pipe. So the first step is to take a cable tie and glue it along the top, and then trim it off at either end. more detailing for the pipe. I want to add just a bit more visual interest, so I have some card measured at 1 centimetre wide, long strip, and I wrap this round both ends of the pipeline and cut it off where it meets the cable tie. I just glue all of this on with super glue. Up next, more details for the pipe. So I initially test fit just to make sure it's looking okay. And then I take this piece from a tap fitting for my kitchen sink. It was inside and it looks pretty cool as a vent. But I want it flush to the pipe. So I wrap some sandpaper around part of the pipe and then just sand it down till it fits snugly. So I glue the sanded down part into the middle of the pipeline. I don't measure this, I just eyeball it. And then I want to make a pipe going to it, so I have some plastic drinking straw. And then I have the pipe from inside a washing up liquid dispenser. And this fits perfectly. So I just cut off 2 small sections, put them onto the pipe, onto the straw, and then glue that on. I also trimmed down the straw so it would sit flush against the plastic fan thing. Now I probably should have done this before adding the straw, but hey ho. I wanted to add a second piece of trim around the first. Again, a bit more visual interest. So I cut a strip of card 5mm wide and then glue it around both ends. Assembly time. So I've trimmed off the straw so it's flush with the pipe. And then time to glue on the 2 end pieces. Now this is where my little grid system kicks into action again. So chuck on a load of super glue and then lining it up, I glue the pipe to one end section and then the other, making sure it's straight to the bottle caps. And then I chuck a bit more glue round the edges just to make sure the bond is really secure. So I have a few gaps on the pipeline and I wanted to get rid of these and also make some rivets. So I mix up some modelling putty. I'm using Tamiya Quick Dry epoxy putty. 2 parts, mixed equally, and then I use some Vaseline on my fingers so I don't stick, and then roll out these little sausages which I wrap around the end of a straw and the end of the pipeline. And then using some silicone sculpting tools, I smooth it out. The rest of the modelling putty, I make a long thin line and just roll it out, and then I'm going to let this harden overnight to make the rivets. I also smoothed out some of the texture on the pipe, but I do this off camera. Next is a tedious part. Using the long strip of modelling putty I made, it's all hard now, I cut it into roughly mil, 2 mil, about a mil little sections all the way along, so these will make rivets. Now comes the seriously tedious part, but it does make it all look good. Attaching the rivets. So I actually change how I do this, and I basically angle the model for the flat panes so they're horizontal. Put the 4 rivets into the middle of that section, put 2 dots of glue, and then using a toothpick move the rivets into place, and then repeat all over. Okay, sealing time. I use a mixture of Mod Podge, water and black paint, and then just slather this all over the model. I then actually wait for it to dry and do another thin coat of watered down Mod Podge just to make it super sealed. Alright, so the Mod Podge is dry, and then I prime the whole thing with a mix of white and black primers, so I'll get a nice grey and prime it all over. Painting time! So the primer's all dried, and then I mix up, I want to get a similar colour to Doomball Brown, or Doomball Red, I can't remember what it's called, the Citadel colour. So I mix up some burnt umber, crimson, and a little bit of bright red, and then water it down and paint the pipes with this. For the rest of the pipe, I use a natural steel paint, and then water it down slightly and slather this on. I do some touch-ups afterwards off camera. Time to bring out all those details. I use some watered down black wash and do all the steel parts with this, although it's a bit heavy, and I actually use a wet brush to get some of it off after, off camera. And then I use a dark brown, I mix some black and brown wash and then do all the pipeline with that. After waiting an age for all those washes to dry, I go back with the steel colour and do several dry brushes on all the metal sections. I use a big brush initially and then change to a smaller brush for the smaller bits. Off camera, I painted in some black into the corrugated paper ends just to make them look a bit better. And then I use a bit of sponge and some burnt umber and do some rust effects on metal parts. So after that burnt umber's dried, I go back over some of it with a mix of orange and the burnt umber, sponging it on again, and then use a bit of orange in certain places as well to simulate that rust. I do a similar effect on the main body of the pipe, but I use silver this time, very lightly sponge on, to simulate chipped paint, where the paint's chipped off. Alright, final stage, a bit more weathering. So I mix up a bit of brown and black ink, and then do some streak marks down from some of the rivets, some of the tops of the metal, and then some on the pipeline, especially in the corners, and then dripping down from the top and underneath the fan. Now, I accidentally put this in on my palette where the silver paint was, and after while I realised it had activated the silver paint again, so I have to wipe this off, and I make up some more ink in a different section of the palette. My mistake. So that's pretty much the end of the project. I'm going to show you some still images of the final result next. Hope you enjoy. And here is the final finished result. Very pleased with this one. Now this is part 1 in a series. I'm going to do at least another 4 sections to this pipeline in different designs, so it's going to be modular and you can move it around. Anyway, if you've liked anything in this video, please like and subscribe for more content. And I will see you in the next one.